Energy Efficiency Forum is an invitation-only event that promotes an energy efficiency ethic through the presentation of national and worldwide views on energy efficiency.
To introduce His Serene Highness, Prince Albert II.
We have to show our contemporaries that energy efficiency is today the only prospect which, as far as energy is concerned, is beneficial for the environment, conducive to progress for the populations involved, and has a strong potential for creating jobs that cannot be relocated. Yet the economic approach cannot achieve everything. It will never be able to create an important momentum unless it is accompanied by the notion of a dream or a challenge. This challenge has to be technological. It is by making energy efficiency not simply a defensive solution, but also a true change in our relationship with energy, that we will generate the hope it deserves. Showing the economic benefits of energy efficiency and sharing the challenges that govern it, I believe that it should be our line of action to give this tremendous potential at last the visibility it so longs for today.
L'efficacité énergétique ne se fera pas sans implication des usagers finaux. Et donc aujourd'hui, avec d'ailleurs beaucoup d'aide également sur ce sujet de la Fondation du Prince Albert, en fait de nombreuses démarches sont menées en termes de sensibilisation à travers le site internet, à travers un certain nombre d'actions et de challenges, et puis à travers bien entendu la mise à disposition d'un guide de conduite éco-responsable pour les différents usagers de la principauté.
We already are seeing a huge demand for goods and services related to energy efficiency. This is a good news. The International Energy estimated that the investment in key energy efficiency market worldwide totaled up to $300 billion in 2011.
Examples from that experience where government, in some cases constrained considerably by their motivations and the rules that guide their procurement decisions. But Agostino, do you have experiences you can share on simplifying that case, the economic case to government?
My view of this whole thing is that underpinning the point that you just made, I think, is the fundamental reason for Europe's struggle with competitiveness, which is in an effort to protect jobs, we create a suboptimal environment of productivity, and then we start to see less and less growth in those economies, and we go back and try to protect the jobs. And so you enter this vicious circle of badness, if you will.
The output of the CCHP plant, if it's lighting, there are different ways of delivering lighting projects. I've seen some very interesting, and we financed some very interesting solutions around this, where lighting is delivered as a service, so providing the light is available at a certain standard and to meet the color, temperature and lux for the client. What's crucial here is the efficient and robust systems for operation and maintenance and warranties and availability guarantees from underlying equipment and service providers.
Energy efficiency is indispensable, but energy efficiency will not come by itself. All players will have to make their contribution. We as energy agencies, with our focus on information and consultancy just as much as energy service providers and technology companies. And the more we will pull together, the more we will be able to get things done.
There are benefits for energy security, obviously very topical in Europe at the moment. There are benefits on property values in buildings, benefits for competitiveness, cost savings for users, which, given that energy efficiency, unlike perhaps any other climate change mitigation measure, is socially progressive, i.e. benefits the poor more than it does the rich, helps consumption, helps with problems of inequality, and drives growth across the whole of society.
You don't need a big organization. You might just need a handful of people whose job is to make sure that everyone is well informed, connected, aids in the communication, and so on. But I am convinced that we can make progress. What's required is that we make a very persuasive case for energy efficiency, pointing out the multiple advantages to different audiences, and sending this message from a group of actors who have joined forces for a common agenda.
It's about saving money, with a caveat that you might often have higher capex up front. You know, we all know LED lights is more costly, but will save you money over time. The other caveat is also, you know, you have to decouple it from growth. I mean, here's a perfect example, you know, because flat screens are now so much more efficient and cheaper. We don't have one, but we have two, plus a projector, you know, and that tends to happen in households as well. We all have much more appliances today than we had 10 years ago and 20 years ago.
Efficiency measures could reach 166 billion euros a year in Europe by 2030. I mean, the same report, I think, found that the economic benefits by 2020, 10 years before, the economic benefits could be up to 175 billion euros a year. And yet governments are still so reluctant to institute measures over efficiency.
We need to be able to embolden our leaders really to just take steps. We sometimes get so bogged down in trying to find evidence for it, you know, is this going to be a competitive advantage or isn't it, and how do you do the economics of this? We've also sometimes got a democratic break on things. There are so many people who need a voice. Frankly, sometimes we need good, clear leadership.
Now we made just the first step in this direction because needed to be done. It will be also to Paris 2015, and we need a strong mandate for the EU to have for the negotiations on the greenhouse gas emissions reductions, which are an important element for the future of the entire planet.
Here, what we should be talking about is an opportunity sharing decision. And that's what I wanted to present to you, that we have an opportunity to share among the member states in the energy efficiency sector.
Don't really object to targets, but what they want is something in return. They want regulation that's clear and consistent. They want it to be phased in over time. They want to have supporting incentives, and they want the technical support, the capability to be able to implement these improvements. That's all they're asking. So it's less important what the target is than how we establish and work together to achieve the target. Energy efficiency is not a burden, it's an opportunity. We shouldn't be sharing burdens, we're actually sharing benefits.
Congratulations. You've already heard all about the award, so we'd like to ask you to come on stage and we'll present the award and take photos.
My oldest son is 15 years old and interested in science. He lives in a world with many challenges, and I don't know whether his life or that of his children will be as prosperous as ours. And yet I feel his possibilities are unlimited. I get really excited when I tell him about the great ideas and directions these young and driven entrepreneurs are working towards. In that moment I can see a spark, and the spark lights a fire which turns into inspiration. And once you start seeing a world without limitations, anything becomes possible. And that's when you start to see and live by the why. The open mind and the asking why. It is up to us to allow this inspiration to run free as the future demands it from us. That is the attitude we need from the next generation in order to overcome the challenges of our planet.
As the first private financing tool to support energy performance contracting law, it's my pleasure to call on stage Mr. Patrick Fackhausen and award him for the Suzy Energy Efficiency Project.
In our daily work, we see a lot of potential for energy efficiency projects, but we also see that there's quite some more innovation required to scale up energy efficiency to make it really the big success story here of Europe. And I think, at least from the financing side, with our new energy efficiency fund, we have the possibility to provide innovative financing solutions and be part of this success story in Europe.
Please allow me to introduce you Mr. Arthur Neslin. He is the Energy Development and Climate Correspondent at Euractiv, the media portal dedicated to EU affairs in Brussels.
Of course, there's a great story to tell about the world's first fuel, the one you don't use, a clean gateway to a future in which we and our children can live healthier and happier lives with less fuel poverty, lower energy bills, less CO2 emissions, less respiratory illness, less CO2 emissions and less waste. You know this story already, and I probably heard it from you. It's widely accepted, but unfortunately it doesn't always override the worthy but complex and dull objections. So in the last year, I tried to package the information differently.